As we glide up onto the most beautiful stretch of the Avon, I will point out some interesting sites, surrounding area, and history of the area too. If you do have any questions throughout the trip today, do feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer them for you. Sir, I will try to make up something really convincing too. First of all, the little river we are cruising on is being called Avon. As you may hear, Avon is an English word. And of course, there are some rivers found in England being called Avon. So Avon is actually a river near Bristol being called the same name. And now this river is also being referred as Avon. What exactly the Avon means? In Old Welsh, basically it means the river. So you can tell people that this is a river. Not the most exciting nor interesting name to the river. So indigenous people, Maori, they commonly refer to this river Otakaro. Otakaro roughly translates to a place of the games. In this surrounding area, the local tribe Ngatahu, who used to reside on surrounding area, come to this part of the waterway looking for food, known as Mahina Kai. They leave the kids on the side of the river, allowing them to look after the boats and shelters. But the kids end up playing in the water all day long, and that's how they derive the name, Otakaro. That little black duck you can see is a scope duck, which we will talk about them as well when we see more of them later on the river. You can actually see them from the color of the eyes. Same as this one, this is also a little scope duck, yellow and brown colored eyes respectively. Now in order to go through this low bridge up ahead of us, there are three major ways to get around here. Jump onto the bridge to dive back onto the boat, or I can swim across, or I can actually dive, push a boat in that way. You're gonna see how I'm gonna maneuver around here now. Because I don't want to be wiped into the water.
Can you jump over?
Well, I'm private, right? Yeah, maybe. I don't want to lose my job now. Can be very adventurous though. And without further ado today, on your right hand side, this is going to be the Christchurch Botanic Garden. It has an area for roughly 52 acres. Established back in 1863. One of the oldest botanic gardens in the South Island of New Zealand itself. With thousands of flowers being planted here and different type of fauna being living around the park too. This building to your right hand side is a mock Tudor style architecture you get to see, and it is being built around 1906. Actually, this building was not used as a purpose like the original one, as it is the curator's house to your right hand side. It is a Spanish restaurant today. Whereas when it was firstly built, it was used as a home for the curator, the person who take care of the gardens and doing a lot of scientific report in terms of the garden, the plants and things. Now say hello to Shine on your left hand side on the boat Mary there. Hello guys.
Got a very good survival rate this week, guys. You're in good hands, right?
So the curator's house today is a Spanish restaurant, and more importantly, now before the 2011 earthquake. But before that, you get to say there are a lot of geese on the landings here. The Canadian geese, as you may see already, they're pooping a lot on the landing, first of all. Secondly, they're eating a lot of grass. They're not as aggressive as the ones you see in States or like Canada, where they actually came from, but they can be a little bit headache. Population has been increased literally, exponentially every year. So probably if there are two, well, if there's a family of two, they might have 5 little goslings. And if you multiply by 10, oh my gosh, that would be a lot, 50, and then after that, multiply another 10, and etc. So you know, it's just quite a lot of them. So later on today, if you see them walking around the park without a purpose, you know what to do? Just grab them, take them away, throw them into the ocean. or just take them home. We do not want them to be here. I know, rest of the world have the same issues with us. But you know what? If you won't ever get cold in the winter, down jacket can be made of those those feathers. Good material for that. I can't guarantee the taste of the food though. But you can use them in that way instead. Oh, here's some doggos too. There's some interesting biodiversity going on the river today. Now you may also see the big weeping willow tree. Look how cute they are now, but when they turn into the adults in a few months' time, they become very, very goofy. So just enjoy while they last. Yes.
Well, they're guarding them, eh? Yeah. One either side.
So whether you have been walking around the botanic gardens or not, you definitely would like to have a look around this little precious garden on your right hand side. So this part of the garden, actually before the bending point, is known as the Temperate Asian Collections. The Temperate Asian Collections is known for the plants that have been originated in Asia that's suitable for New Zealand climate, and therefore they cultivated here. Some of the plants like the weeping willow and the bamboos are found over there, for instance. And later on, when you walk around here, you get to see the Central Rose Garden, providing you a lot of modern breeds of roses to be in blossom in summertime like now. A Punting, allowing you to see the pine trees around there. Now, in order to name the plants around the waterway, we have a few ways actually. One way is to look at the sign, what they talk about. They might tell you what the tree is. Sometimes we take the best estimations. But there is one type of tree we can namely call them, just that you get to see from overseas. But it is already a really beautiful presented tree itself right in front of us on your left hand side here. Now this redwood, also known as a Californian sequoia, it's only around 140 years old, which means that this tree is still in its young age, because this type of tree live up to a couple hundred years long, some of them even longer. In order to determine the age of the tree, this is where the best estimation came from. You can actually measure the diameter of the trunk, and in order to predict the age. Or you can just ask the forestry people, and they will give you an answer straight away. But it can be a little bit estimation going on. But one thing that we do know is that lots of the trees are much older than myself, which is much more older than 22. So it's really cool. And also you get to see the maple tree, where there are some branches and leaves that are hanging above the waterway. The maple tree, just like the ones you get to see in overseas countries, it will transition its color into a red colored leaf, which allowing you to sort of like take photographs. So it's not an evergreen plant that you could imagine around the botanic gardens, but it definitely is quite iconic too. Now, as you may see around the waterway, the Avon River itself is a rather slow-moving and also a quite clear waterway. Thankfully, no rain has been affected this spring, despite there are some rain yesterday maybe, but it actually didn't flood the water, which is really nice. Now, the Avon is actually a cold spring feeding water system, which means that a lot of the springs you can be seeing around the waterway. Some of them are quite visible, like the one you get to see before the weeping willow. Some of them are part of the Christchurch infrastructure, which you can't really see. Now, this little river, regardless of what season you come to Christchurch, stays in a rather, like what you call, stable temperature range, between 10 and 12 Celsius degrees all year long. As I said, the water will flood after a heavy storm, but otherwise this water flows rather in a constant rate. no matter where you go, actually, the water will actually all go into the same directions. The direction we are heading to now is to the source of the water. So up ahead of us, another 10 kilometers, we possibly can get to the source of the river near the airport in a suburb called Avonhead. Well, you heard that right, Avonhead, the head of Avon, that's the suburb's name. And it will flow all the way from the west to the east, going to the Pacific Oceans. But before that, before the oceans, actually there's a big estuary called Avon Hedgecote Estuary, where the river joins up another river called Hedgecote River in the south of Christchurch, found near Port Hills. That's another river that's in Christchurch, people can see. So these two rivers combine together before they both go into the ocean. So strictly speaking, you can glide this 24-kilometer river by yourself within a day or two, but it may take a few hours to a day, as I said. So might need to pack some lunches and also a life jacket, or no water from the waterfall. That probably is one of the biggest waterfall you get to see in the Christchurch city centre today. All right, we're gonna turn the boat around just in case we actually will sink into the water. And I hope it's not a really harsh turn. I'll try to do it as smooth as I can in the early afternoon like now. There we go. I know it doesn't feel like a jet, feel like a jet boat, but we try not to do that in a not so windy day anyways. We wouldn't go this far actually, just by the tree we will turn. Now we are going downstream with the current, which means my life is only slightly easier. But across the street, we still have another part of the park, because that is a Hagley Park. The Hagley Park, if you look on the Google Maps or any sort of maps, it looks like it's been located on either side of the outskirts of the Botanic Gardens. So the little Hagley Park itself has an area for around 400 acres in total, divided into North and South Hagley Park itself. It is a multi-purpose park itself in the Christchurch city central, allowing people to play cricket, play some sort of frisbee, some football, and some touch rugby, so people can enjoy their time in the park itself. On your right hand side, you may be interested to see a building that being erected on your right hand side behind the woods. Now, this little white circular rotunda is known as the Bandsman Memorial. If you look afar, the Bandsman Memorial, which actually tells you a little sign outside of the rotunda, tells you about the story. The rotunda was erected in 1926, exactly 100 years ago. It was actually erected the purpose behind the building was to commemorate those people who've been sent to Gallipoli campaign in Turkey back in 1915, during the middle of the World War I. Lots of people were from Addington Brass Band actually, but tragically they were killed in actions. Therefore, there is one rotunda, and they got a fundraising in 1926 actually, decided to erect the rotunda. Nowadays, you can still get underneath the rotunda to see the Turkish hood structure of the building, which is also another precious type of wooden material, just like the redwood you get to see earlier. So you can see that rotunda still operates and also being a really good scenic spot inside of the gardens. Now to your left hand side, you also get to see a big tree just behind the green hedges and also behind the little sign. The little sign tells you about the tree itself and surrounding area. On your left hand side, that tree is being called the Royal Albert Oak, being planted back in 1863. The seedling of that tree was initially gifted in 1861 to represent the commemoration of the King Albert's death in that year. 2 years after, Queen Victoria, the mother of the Prince Albert Edwards, her son was married to the Princess Alexandra from Denmark. Therefore, that big Albert Edward Oak was planted. You can see how big it is, just perpendicular to us, well, right in front of us now. And that tells you a little bit about the area too. And surely you get to see the fern just right in front of us, behind this tree. You get to see a couple of silver colors on the top of the plant. I know it is really hard to see today, but trust me, when you get underneath there, you might believe what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not trying to make it up, honestly. But you can see this old fern. This is a rather old fern, honestly. If you really want to see the fern though, much more impressive ones, Mona Vale is probably one of the destinations you wish to visit, because that is where the fern house, there is a fern house over there. So you get to see much more bigger ferns and healthier ferns around there, instead of that old fern you get to see behind that old tree earlier. Look at these ducks just on the cubby holes on your left hand side here. The colorful duck you get to see is known as a paradise shell duck. Let me see which one is the female. The female one will be having white color head on the landing there, whereas the male one is the one in the black color head. Now if you really want to see the paradise shell duck, you can try to do what I do a sound of them. Oh, that's some pigeon going on here in Keruru. Now the paradise shell duck, if you want to call them out in the around the city, you can sort of make the noise like wah, wah. That type of noise. I just do 2 impressions, otherwise it's super embarrassing. So that's how they sound like supposedly. Or you can just call them out honestly with some duck feed in your hand, and they probably come to you. Now the paradise shell duck, as you may see, they have 2 different colors, male and female. Generally speaking, when they were younger, they have the look of the dad. So they have the many hundred years ago. Now the childs, they have the brown and green colored body, allowing to see them. But again, it can be a little bit hard. Sometimes when the water is not super clean, it can be a bit harder to see. And also they swim rather much faster, actually, compared to the eels. So we can only see the eels largely inside of this freshwater system here. And now say hello to Sean to your left hand side on the boat. Emma there. Hello guys.
Bye bye.
You also get to see the New Zealand flax bush underneath those cabbage tree on your left hand side with some black colored fruit on the top of them. Now the New Zealand flax flowers can be used a lot of like really sugary, can be eaten. The bandage people use the leaves as a bandage. The fiber from the New Zealand flax, the leaves, when people scrape the leaves off, is more used for production like traps, basket, and ropes in the early histories. So New Zealand flax, also known as a harakeke, another name, are very iconic New Zealand plant. You get to see quite often in here. And say hello to Charlie on your left hand side on the boat Mary there. Hello guys.
Very front of the boat, where are you coming from? Japan. Okay.
These series of buildings on your right hand side, as I said, they are all part of the hospital. That's where you get your treatment if you get bitten by the eels. But much more importantly, these are all post-quake buildings. So the earthquake itself happened in 2011 on the 22nd of February. It's actually moderately heavy, given that it is 6.3 magnitude, and also the center of the earthquake is only 10 to 15 kilometers away from us. So it's actually quite devastating on that day when the earthquake happened. Therefore, there are many post-quake buildings that has a lot of like earthquake strengthening technique being built in. For instance, the new buildings for the hospital on your right hand side. The 3 towers you get to see on the art image on the wall. That's what they're going to look like once they all completed. The upper floors are purposefully built in a way, allowing the patient to see through the window when they get the health care. And also you can see they are identically heighted in terms of how tall they are, only up to 28 meters or 9 floors high, which is much shorter than the pre-quake building you get to see some of them in Krachi City. Now, sometimes the pond ride can be a little bit a daunting experience, especially in the late afternoon, not like necessarily now. One of the best way to wake us up by ourselves is to rock the boat slightly with the wind, as you feel now. As you can tell, the boat a little bit wobbly, but we still remain on the top of the water too. Now, the little punting word, the word punting comes from the Latin puntus, means bridge. What exactly people do these boats in the beginning was actually they deliver crates and boxes inside of the boat and go through shallow waterway like here, and also overseas. Now, this boat is traditionally used a lot in England, in Cambridge. In the 1880s, after the Industrial Revolutions, they then eventually transitioned into the leisure activity like what you guys experience now. In order to go through the shallow water, we use a long wooden pole to help us to steer left or right or back of the boat in order to make them go around. Strictly speaking, Stella, the boat we are on today, is around 450 or 475 kilograms, which is a rather lighter boat compared to other bigger ones like Mary, Emma, and Liz. They all weigh more than 500 kg myself. But once it is seated, fully seated up to 10 people, it can easily get up to one singular town, around 1,000 kilograms, which is a fairly heavy boat. It's me after one day. And you also get to see they have different lengths. So traditionally the cap 20 foot long, but some of them are more than 20 foot long, around 3 foot wide, which is their dimensions. So they can be a little bit different from the traditional ones. The flat bottom is what they do, like regardless of what area they are in. Different to be very different from Venice gondolias. These are more, we don't really sing a song to you, and these are much more safer too. You get to say hello to Murray on your right hand side there, that little red color here duck. Murray is a Muscovy, Royal Muscovy or Muscovian. I'm not too sure what exactly the name of the duck is, but as you can see, Murray is very different from other ducks you get to see on the waterway here. Sometimes he likes to go into our boat shed to say hello to us, just asking for duck feed like wheat. So he does like to go around there.
Swallowing.
Now, as you may see, not necessarily from this angle, but later on you will see the Christchurch Antigua boat shed on the side of the Avon today. It's actually a little bit sinking into the ground. Not largely caused by the earthquake, but more importantly because of the weight distribution happening in the ground, like erosion going on, and also weight distributions. But it is still nice to see such an old antique building operate since 1882 for its original purpose for the last 144 years, such as hiring out the kayakers. Punting came to Christchurch rather late in the 1994 to this part of the boat shed, but we start to operate since 1980s. Back then we go through Monavale too. Now, as we get back to the boat shed, please remain seated until we tie up the front and the back of the boat. Once both front and the back are tied up and safely disembarked, I will let you guys know. The best way to hop off this boat is probably roll around, put your knees on seat cushions right below you, slowly get up from there. If you require extra hand, don't be shy, we are here to help. And I hope you enjoyed today's pond ride alongside with me on the river of Takaro. If you wish to leave a Google review, my name is Bohan. But if you don't really like the eels, we try to describe out for you. Or anything else like the Canadian geese, probably choose many other names instead. For instance, John, like John Doe. Oh, hang on, football photo. Just look to the UK now, really quickly.